Hey there, you're watching. Reader recap. In the last chapter we saw, Iron recalls that the story's main character discovered the entrance to the new floating stone mine. There was a whole event in the literature about that. And, despite the fact that the mine was located in the mountains close beyond the dukedom, they had not considered investigating there until the main character discovered it. Iron is perplexed as to why the main character is even there at the mine's entrance. But then she remembers that, as the story's heroine, she had all the luck. It seemed evident that she would find it and be praised for it, but things were different today. This time, Irene was there, and she knew all there was to know about the Earth, even more than the humans who lived on it. And she believes she needs a mechanism to shield herself from Erno's whims. He would abandon her and adopt the main character as his daughter if she did not react immediately. Irene apologizes to the story's main character, who will arrive later. This time, though, she will claim credit for unearthing the floating stone mine. She goes to Erno and inquires about a moving stone, and when he uses his magic to generate a picture of the stone, Erno states that it is a worthless stone that can only float in the sky. When only a tiny quantity of flying stone mingled with iron, it generated a lightweight metal appropriate for the manufacturing of weapons. When Erno explains that the flying stone proved ineffective, Irene admits she was oblivious of it. It was shortly going to transform the world's conflicts and trigger a revolution. But then Erno asks Irene, why did she ask that question so suddenly? She then claims she saw a stone floating in the sky, and Duke Morel can't believe his ears when he hears it. In a moment of surprise, he smacks the stone table with his fist, breaking it in two. Everyone is stunned, but Morel encourages Irene to verify her assertions. Did she, in fact, detect a flying stone? Irene is horrified as she stares at the destroyed table. She thinks that this is the might of the dragon family, as a massive stone table was smashed as if it were nothing. But Duke Morel isn't the only one who wants Irene to respond. Other individuals began to doubt the stone and where she saw it. They ask if she can aid them or tell them which mountain she observed it near. But immediately Erno screams 10 steps with such a great, scary intensity that everyone involuntarily takes a few steps back. He advises them to retain at least that much distance when conversing with his daughter, and everyone apologizes for being so eager. This rule, however, would not apply to Erno's father or Irene's granddad. Morel pushed everyone aside and marches up to Irene. He inquires as to where she saw it, and Irene claimed to have noticed it on the mountain in the rear, and Morel requests that she move in that manner. And Irene gestures to the hill, which is plainly visible from the window. Morel finds it difficult to accept that a moving stone quarry existed in the mountains outside the Duke's residence. But Irene is convinced she saw it there. People started to quarrel amongst themselves. The rear mountain was the mountain behind the Duke's residence. People are speculating if Irene spotted the incorrect stone. However, they did not investigate the back mountain since they had little prospect of discovering anything there. Morel ponders for a moment and concludes that there is nothing to be gained by exploring the region, and he tells his aide to search the area. Erno is staring at her while Irene analyzes the uproar her disclosure has made. He pats Irene's head and adds, "That was interesting." He wonders how she knows so much, and Irene is now scared. But their moment is cut short by someone rushing in with a crucial message for the Duke. Duke Morel inquires as to why the messenger is making such a fuss, and he murmurs something in his ear. Morel's mood darkens as he hears such statements. He mutters something about someone's daughter being in a bad environment. He promptly decides to bring the meeting to an end. This decision has astonished everyone. They had also noted that the Duke's features were dark, and Irene is the only one who knows what is about to happen. The female protagonist of the novel was slated to move into the Etom mansion, and Irene is astonished since it is occurring faster than she imagined. She fears that if the novel's main character, who is adored by everyone, arrived here, she would be forgotten. Irene is nervous and chewing her nails as she mulls over the problem, but then Erno comes up and tells her that he sometimes has no clue what his daughter is thinking. Iren is baffled by what he meant. However, Erno argues that it was already quite late, but he wanted to introduce someone to his daughter the next day. When Iren inquires about it, Erno responds that she will soon find out. Iren, on the other hand, knows what is about to happen and fears how Erno would react to it. Erno had tucked Iren into her bed for the night. When he asks if she enjoyed the pudding, Iren answers that it was great. Erno tells her to let him know anytime she wants to eat it, and he swears to give Iren everything she desires. Iren, on the other hand, can only think about one thing. This game between father and daughter will soon come to an end. Erno will assume the female lead when she arrives, as per the original storyline. Everything will return to normal for Iren, and she will become an extra once again. But she is prepared, and her preparations are also complete. Erno sends Iren pleasant dreams, and she reciprocates by wishing him a good night. But deep down, she knows that this is all a great dream that she should let go of. Iren wakes up and asks Erno whether the mansion actually belongs to her. He informs her that it actually is, along with the butler, maid, and 30 other servants. Iren clasps her hands and declares that her father is the finest. Erno then delivers her a check for 100 million gold. He offers her a wicked grin and explains that he has maintained his promise to her. Erno instantly stops smiling and orders her to go lost. Iren is taken by his abrupt apathy. Erno informs her that if only he knew sooner that she wasn't a terrible dragon. As he walks away from her, she grabs for him but finds her hand altered to a little lizard-like hand, and she discovers that she has changed into a dragon. She is booted out of the palace and put in jail. Iren shouts out loud and wakes up, her doll clasped securely in her grasp. She glances out the window of her room and realizes it was all a dream, and it's still night. In the morning, Mylar dresses Iren and stares at her in admiration. She compliments Iren, stating that she looks nice in whatever she wears. Iren twirls about and asks Mylar whether she looks nice. The maid tells her she looks fantastic, admiringly. Iren says she has gotten more driven since arriving at the mansion. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Iren snatches her doll and tells Mylar that she will unlock the door instead. She wonders whether that was her father. She opens the door and welcomes her father with a bright grin. But instead of her father, his 2 sons were there at the door, Kallion Etam and Cillian Etam. Kallion informs Iren that her father is waiting and beckons for her to move. She quickens her stride to catch up with the 2 lads. As they go, she wonders that the dream she witnessed last night must not simply be a dream. Just as in that dream, Erno Etham dislikes reptiles. Even in the original draft of the narrative, the protagonist reads this information many times. If Iren turns out to be a lizard beast, she will be screwed. As she is buried in her thoughts, she realizes the 2 brothers have already traveled far, leaving her behind. This makes her recall her own 2 brothers. They had left her behind, and when she protested to them, they merely scowled hard at her. They insulted her, stating that they felt terrible for their parents who gave birth to her. This makes her unhappy, and she collapses to the floor. She informs them that they may go first because she's sluggish. Kallion approaches her and calls her. He reaches for her, which makes Iren cringe since she doesn't want to be struck again. Cillian Etham, the youngest sibling, has a calm attitude and demonstrates a great skill for swordsmanship. Along with their features, their personalities are similar as well. Instead of beating Iren, Kallion pats her head and tells that she shouldn't naively follow them, and if she cannot walk, she should notify them. He promptly takes up her toy and summons Cillian to also aid her. Cillian, who was watching his brother connect with Iren, bends down on his knees and signals for Iren to jump on his back. The surprised Iren tells him she is heavy, but Cillian assures her that is appropriate for her. Iren hesitates for a bit and ultimately climbs up on his back. Since they start walking again, Kallion contacts her and tells her not to go too near to Erno, since he is the sort of man who regularly performs pranks like this. He further instructs Iren that she should not be wounded by anything Erno says. She glances at him, noticing how lovely he is. Iren gets Cillian's back and informs Kallion that she knows her father doesn't like her. She rushes to the door and says that she is good with it nevertheless. She turns back with a smile and lays her finger on her lips. She informs them in a tactful way that she, too, has her own secret. The brothers glance at her, surprised. They all enter through the door. Erno is already sitting at the breakfast table. He glances at Irene approaching him, telling him she misses him. Erno scoops her up in his arms and hails his boys for bringing Aaron into excellent health. But seeing the uneasy expression on their faces makes him mute. He asks them if there was any cause or if anything happened to his daughter. They reject his fears as the family continues eating breakfast. Erno informs them that the head has located Erno's sister's daughter. The son wonders whether it's the aunt's daughter who has run away from home. Erno pinches Ernie's fat cheeks, who is seated on his lap and answers enthusiastically. He then asks Ernie whether she enjoys the doll they purchased the day before. Irene looks up at him and tells him she does because it's nice and warm, and she thanks him for purchasing her such a lovely doll. Erno glances at her for a minute with a glimmer of fondness in his eyes. As he is about to touch her face, his ring begins reflecting red light, making his finger hurt and prompting him to recoil. This leads Irene to tumble off his lap and onto the floor. Erno quickly tells Cillian to grab Irene and get away from there. Cillian and Cillian glance at their father with dismay. He orders them to hurry, and the two brothers go to the astonished Irene and tell her to get out of there. Irene ignores them and looks at her father in disbelief. Erno holds his head in his hands. She recalls one of the mysteries of the Atom family. They may encounter a phenomena in which they sense the impulse to murder owing to uncontrolled magical abilities. The children see their father moan in misery. Irene then recognizes that she has read this section of the original narrative. Even though Erno wears a magic suppression ring, his berserk occasionally breaks out. According to the original narrative, Erno was dining with his family in a greenhouse one day when he suddenly went insane. He then slaughtered scores of servants. Thus, Duke Merle took action against the awful tragedy. The Duke placed Erno on probation for a period. It was around that period that Erno became a genuine monster of the Etam family in name and truth. That day in the original script is today. Cillian orders Cillian to go and disseminate the evacuation message while he takes Irene away. Cillian agrees. Irene is engrossed in her own thoughts, anxious about her father and not wanting to leave him alone. She begins to think of a solution. Suddenly she recalls that in the original account, Cillian had discovered a plant growing like a blanket in the biggest shadow, from which he made a cure to quiet down berserkers. She apologizes to Cillian and flees out the door, disregarding his warning that it's not safe to go alone. Irene knows it's absurd, but if her father gets probation, her aspirations of having her own money, island, and property would evaporate, and the play that looked like a dream will finish shortly, leaving her with nothing. She doesn't want this. Finally, Irene approaches Erno's greenhouse. She notices the plant described in the original screenplay, a tree with red berries that Cillian and Cillian locate in the original script. The tree grows red fruits all year long and is always like early summer. The script also said that the red fruits were the essential elements in the sedative medications for berserk. Erin swiftly takes out her bag of gold money and dumps it. She then reaches for the fruits to gather them. Since the tree has a lot of thorns, she is scared of it. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you and see you on the next one.